It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That means that is Alan Saunders. Alan, I'm bored already. We're not going to have Steelers football for a while. I'm bored already.
I'm not bored. I'm enjoying. Yeah, here's the thing. It's like, I'm relaxing. I'm not bored. I'm relaxing is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm decompressing. I'm de-stressing.
I didn't know you knew how to do that, so that's good.
I was very frustrated yesterday. I've let it go. And I am it's good. It's good. Practice today was like half an hour. I'm fine with that. I don't need more than that. I'm making plans for the weekend. It's weird. Like, that's not usually a thing that I do this time of year. So I'm good. I'm good.
Just so, like, I think that it'd be first thing first, dive into this. I said I'm bored because I miss football already, knowing that there's not going to be a Steeler game on Sunday. But, like, what does a bye week even look like? So you're talking about for you, it's weird to have the opportunity to do some different things on the weekend. But for the players, especially, like, in the building, what does that look like during a bye week?
So they scheduled 2 days of practice this week, Tuesday and Wednesday. And they'll have those are kind of like normal practice days. They did not wear pads today, but kind of like a normal practice day, except they're a little bit shorter and they're a little bit heavier on like weird stuff that you don't usually do on a game in and game out basis. Like this might be a good week to, I don't know, break out some trick plays. It might be a good week to work on like specific things that you got wrong. So, like if there's something that they feel like they're not doing correctly, this is a good week to just like, there's no focus to it is what I'm trying to say. Like it may be like one period of punt block. Oh, we did that well. So probably not punt block, but whatever.
Mhm.
Field goal block. Oh, we've done all our field goal blocks the same. We don't want to have a tendency. We're going to put in a different field goal protection this week. Okay. Or they screwed up the kneel down right at the end. They took a penalty. So,
Yeah.
Okay, let's get that right. Let's go over our fastball calls on offense. Like what's the 2-minute look like? Just a good week to kind of get all that stuff. They're not doing any heavy work in these two practices. And in fact, tomorrow they're not going to do any work because after practice today, Mike Tomlin said, see you, giving you a day off. So they just have one practice this week. And the players are gone. They're going home or they're going on vacation or they're out of the building from this afternoon until Monday morning. So they get all this time off, go home, recharge, go on vacation. Heard some guys talking about going to their college alma mater if it's homecoming time, whatever they got going on in their life. That's what they're doing. And then they will come back on Monday. So Monday on a typical week is like just a meeting day. They will have practice on Monday next week, and that could be a padded practice. I think that's what I would expect right now, and that will probably be a day where like you give most of the older guys the day off and kind of work in, like, let your practice squad guys play as their position instead of on a scout team, and kind of like give them a day more like a training camp day, right, where you're working like instead of ones versus scout, like ones versus twos or something like that. And then back into a normal routine starting Wednesday for the next week. So, when we talk about bye week adjustments, a lot of times it's the coaches doing that work. It is not necessarily the players doing that work. You're not going to see a bye week adjustment where like all of a sudden George Pickens is doing something totally different or James Daniels is, well, he's been hurt. So, okay, man, that's a bad example, but Najee Harris is going to come out with a new move. Mostly these bye week adjustments are about coaches deciding what they can change and using this extra time that they have, because they are not flying to Tahiti or Bora Bora or wherever for the weekend. And they're working for the rest of the week for sure. I think they do get the weekend off. It's also an opportunity to do a serious self-scout for them in terms of identifying tendencies, ways to break their tendencies, and that kind of thing. So that's what goes on in a bye week. And just from a media perspective, we talked to the defensive coaches today. The Steelers only make their assistant coaches available to the media during the season one time during the bye week. So from the end of training camp until OTAs next year, or the draft next year, I guess, this will be the only time we get to talk to position coaches. So today I talked to Denzel Martin and Carl Dunbar. Nick talked to Grady Brown, and we talked to TA. Tomorrow we'll get the offensive coaches. So for our show purposes, we're going to kind of spend today mostly talking about defense, and then maybe tomorrow talking about offense, and kind of breaking into what those changes that we think might be coming, what they can make, what they can't make, and looking back on what they've done in the first, I don't know, this is more than a quarter, fifth of the season. I don't know, more than that.
No.
Third of the season. I don't know where we're at. First 5 games, just say that.
Yeah, they're in a weird spot with this 17 games, threw everything off. It'd be nice to just, format it.
I can't do division with fractions in my head.
Like, yeah. Well, don't worry. They're going to go to 18 games soon, and then, it'll be an even number again. And
yeah. That's great.
But yeah, so it's going to be defense. This is so we look at us. We get the rest of the week pretty much mapped out in terms of how the show's going to look. Defense today, offense tomorrow, 10,000 subscriber celebration on Thursday. Steelers afternoon drive. We got things figured out over here.
Nick Faribault on Friday, by the way. You don't even know
Faribault Friday.
You don't even know that yet, but I did. It's going to be Nick Faribault on Friday. So there you go.
Another Faribault Friday. The people love it. All right, but the first thing before we get into defense, actually, we got a really good comment that kind of ties into the conversation we would have already when it comes to defense. But I think we got to bring up Kenny talking today. Nick was part of that. Kenny bringing up that, yes, he did make a call at the line in terms of the protection they were going to run on the play, and told George that what his route was going to be. So there was a change at the line of scrimmage after breaking the huddle on that game-winning touchdown. Was there anything that he said that wasn't already, information to you?
No, not really. I mean, I guess it is interesting that they verbalized the check that he said to George, hey, this is 0 and that's press, you're running it deep. I don't know, and whatever words. I never even saw any communication between Kenny and George. So,
right, we've talked about that. I didn't either. We thought it was maybe
there was a hand signal that I missed. It had to be that. But again, that's what, like, if Kenny doesn't say anything, that's what George is supposed to do anyway. And remember, we talked yesterday, like they ran the same concept earlier in the game and they were not on the same page. So, good job by Kenny making sure that they were on the same page. But George is supposed to read that way anyway. And one of the things I actually think is difficult about this scheme is that it does put a lot of onus on the receivers to read the defense, the whole defense, and not just their coverage, because they don't really have a lot of those kind of adjustments for Kenny to make it the line. Like, George has to read that the same way that Kenny reads it most of the time. If there was a specific adjustment in there made where Kenny's saying, yes, go deep, or yes, that I'm alerting you. So an alert, I don't think we talked about an alert yesterday. An alert would just be like, hey, here's what I'm seeing. We talked about how, like, a play can have multiple ways to read it. Well, sometimes a player on the backside of a play knows he's the 5th read and will just kind of jog and go down the field and be like, oh, whatever. Like, that's Kenny saying, like, hey, be ready. It's coming over there. Like that kind of thing. Sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes it's not. But really, I mean, nothing changed. It is what we knew it was. And it's still a stupid thing to talk about. It was a good play for the offense. It was a good play by Kenny Pickett. It was a good play by George Pickens. And further dissection of it is senseless at this point.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is where it's getting lost is, like, that's a built-in check, though. Like, if you see cover 0, you go to that.
It's all part of the play, right? An audible is changing to a different play. That's not what's happening here. And I don't believe Kenny is even allowed to do that. And there's no reason for zero reason for Canada to be frustrated by the processes that he has put in to his the checks and the parts of the play that are there working properly. Like, no reason for that to be upsetting to him. Zero. Like,
by 2 second-year players. Yeah,
they practiced that all week. Okay, like him putting that in and then practicing it all week and it working. Like, there's no reason for him to be bothered by that. None whatsoever. So it's senseless.
Yep. Well, hopefully that's, the last that we discuss of it. Again, we wanted this to be a defensive heavy show. We had to bring that up, though, with Kenny speaking today. So let's talk about the defense. Do you want me to bring up that comment now?
Yeah, go straight to that comment, because I'll be honest, I had in my head what I wanted this show to be about, and then you read that comment, and I was like, all right, our viewers in
Was it
my
Alan?
head
Yeah.
get out of there. That's not cool, but this is cool because it's cool that we lined up that way. Go ahead, read the comment.
Colton S412, which this could very well just be Alan Saunders burner on YouTube giving us comments. I know people are
Creating my
frustrated
own
with
content.
Yeah, there you go. I know people are frustrated with how the Steelers have brought along Joey Porter Jr., Broderick Jones, and Keeanu Benton so slowly, but is it possible that those guys have played so well in their limited time due to that being the fact?
Yeah, this is a really good point. So are you familiar with the Peter principle?
No,
This is like a
I'm
business
Googling
thing,
right
but
now.
basically you get promoted until you get promoted to a job that you can't do, and then you just stay there. So if you're always promoting people from within, you will eventually have an entire organization full of people that are failing because you promoted them one step too far, right? So, like, hey, he was a good writer. Let's make him editor. He was a good editor. Let's make him publisher. He's a good publisher. Let's make him CEO. Crap, he's a bad CEO. Like,
Yeah.
at some point, almost everyone gets to that crap. He or she is bad at this somewhere in that process. So, there's a lot of that going on with the Steelers here, where the team has set out a plan that they think is the best way for their young players to grow and develop. Sometimes the team needs trump that plan. Broderick Jones, for example, did not plan on him being a full-time, full-rep starter by week 5 of this season. Okay. But hey, the team needs trump that plan. But sometimes they don't. And when they don't, it's more about letting guys continue to have success and continue to build on success instead of immediately getting them exposed for not being good enough to do the whole job and then dealing with failure. I talked to Joey Porter Jr. today, and first of all, I mean, Joey's a great kid and great to talk to, but like, he's bubbling right now, right? I mean, the guy just made a great interception. He's in a great space. They're going into their bye week. He's got 4 days off, and even though the team results have not been where they want, this rookie feels great about his rookie season right now. He feels great about it. If he goes out and plays 70 snaps against the San Francisco 49ers, I don't think that's the case, right? I don't think that that he ends up where we are here if he has to drink through the fire hose at the beginning of the season. But I talked to both Joey and I talked to Keeanu Benton about this, and both of them were really appreciative of, one, the coaching staff caring enough about them to come up with a plan. Like, hey, this is what we're going to do. Like, it shows investment from the team into the player when they say, hey, here's our plan for you. Here's how it's going to go. And then the nature of it, where you saw it, Joey got just dime snaps. And then he got dime and like a couple outside corner snaps. And then he got dime and like a couple outside corner series. And I bet next game he's going to get dime and maybe some nickel and some outside corner series. But, I don't know that he's going to be a full-time starter in week 7, but you can see the path there. And it is just good people management when you tell people, here's what we're going to give you now. If you succeed, here's what you get next. If you succeed, here's what you get next. Here is the path to get from where you are to where you want to be. Here's how long it's going to take. Here are the benchmarks for us, for you along the way. It just makes their life as a rookie in the NFL, which is already hectic and chaotic, so much easier. And I think they're doing the same thing with Keeanu Benton, right? Starts playing only nose tackle. Then they add a little bit of 3-tech. Now, last week, we see 4-eye and 5-tech involved in the process. He's playing end in the base defense. He starts a game for the first time. He plays a career high in snaps. And I think people see, oh my gosh, Keeanu Benton is playing better than whatever, Isaiah Loudermilk. Why is Isaiah Loudermilk getting these snaps instead of Benton? Why don't they just give them all to Benton? Joey Porter Jr. is playing better than Shannon Sullivan. So they should be playing Porter and moving Peterson in the slot, and Sullivan should be getting less reps and Porter should be getting more. a big part of the reason they're playing well is the reps that they're getting, and it part of this player development process. That doesn't mean that Joey Porter Jr. is not capable of playing an entire game right now. I'm sure he is if the team needed him to, but they don't feel like they do, and they're getting the results they want in other places that is not feeling like breaking glass in case of emergency is necessary at this point at those two positions.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I guess there's something to be said for the sink or swim stuff if that player exceeds right away and you don't see a drop off. But bringing a guy slowly along like this when you know that there's a long-term plan for them, we're seeing what the return of investment can be with these guys. They're not here just to be contributors in their rookie year. They're hoping that these guys can be huge contributors down the road. So it's not just about the 2023 season.
Especially big guys. Like linemen generally have a larger learning curve in adjusting to the league than skill position players. And so, and they have longer careers. When you draft an offensive lineman in the first and second round, a defensive lineman in the first and second round, you're expecting those guys to be 10-year players for your team. Like you're expecting to get David DeCastro and Cam Hayward out of these guys. Okay. But David DeCastro and Cam Hayward were not Pro Bowlers from out of the wrapper. Like they took time to develop. Now DeCastro played a little bit earlier than Hayward did, but they did not.
Remember, people hated him though because of remember the Marquise Pouncey injury.
Yeah. Okay. Like it takes time for them to become that player, and I think it's really a credit to the team that they've been really patient with these guys, even though there was an injury to Cam Hayward, even though Levi Wallace and Patrick Peterson have not played as well as they are capable of playing. Shannon Sullivan certainly has not either, that they have not panicked. And I guess you could say they haven't blinked, to use Mike Tomlin's own terminology. They are just calmly sticking with the plan, and it's working. And, I think the Broderick Jones thing as well, I think a lot of teams, you trade up to get a guy in the first round. You're paying a lot for him. I think a lot of teams would have forced him into the lineup right away, and they didn't. Dan Moore beat him in training camp. There's no question about that. He deserved the chance to keep his job. We talked all offseason about how difficult the early assignment was there in terms of Bosa and Garrett and Crosby. And now you're getting Broderick Jones in the lineup against, with all due respect to Jadeveon Clowney, not the same kind of challenge. And certainly nobody in Houston that's even really worth mentioning. And now he's got a bye week where he can practice with the ones. And now he's got the Rams, who don't have a elite edge rusher either. I mean, Aaron Donald's going to come out that way sometimes, but more often than not, it's a guy who's not an impact player. And so this is really, I think the bye week was sort of the beginning of, okay, here's where the Steelers would have started to consider playing Broderick Jones anyway, even if Dan Moore hadn't been injured. It just happened that he got injured and they had to move that time frame up a week and a half. But it just feels, I think anytime when I'm judging a team I'm covering, when you can see the intent of the organization in their actions and then it plays out the way that it was intended, I always think that has to be a credit to the organization, and it's got to make you feel good about the other things they have planned. Like it gives you faith. It's why it's the opposite reason of why when the Pittsburgh Pirates claimed somebody on waivers in December, everyone's like, World Series, here we go.
Yep.
Jack Simpson, he's going to be the guy to do it all. But meanwhile, like, if you're a Tampa Bay Rays fan, you're probably like, wonder what
Robert Stevenson
just gave us our next all-star, right? Like, it's the same move, okay? But it's the track record of the organization giving you that feeling. And I think it's right to point out that I think the Steelers are doing a really good job with these three young players and bringing them along smartly and slowly to get to a point where they could be really good contributors even in their rookie season.
Yeah, and there's some stuff I want to touch on with Broderick, but I can save that for tomorrow offensively. But I wanted to point out, I thought the Porter stuff was really interesting and a really good point that you made, just in terms of like when you look at the cornerback position, I've always considered that one of the tougher mental positions to play. So, if he gets burned early on, it could be tough for him to recover right away. I'm not saying he's mentally weak, obviously, but just like the fact that they've gone about it like this and let him be in a really good place during the bye, especially coming off a Ravens week where we know like your Steelers tenure, a lot of that is going to be determined by the plays that you make against the Baltimore Ravens. So for him to have a play like that already under his belt and now to just have this time off to think about it and get ready for what's could be an increased role going into LA, I just, like you said, it just seems like he's in a really good spot right now.
Yeah, and Benton too. This is a defensive line that's been playing without its best player, and I think playing better than we thought they would, given that, right? I mean, like there's been some problems with the Steelers defense. The line has not been this glaring issue, where I think they've been horrible. I think they've done okay, and I think Benton is a big part of that. I think he probably needs to continue to grow and continue to get more reps. When I look at the rep sheet and I see that like Monty Adams has like 20 more plays than Keeanu Benton, I'm like, well, Benton's better right now. So he probably should be getting more, but there's a plan, and it's not like Monty Adams played so badly that they needed to get away from that plan. We'll see more of Keeanu Benton next week, and that's the way they're going about things, and I think it makes a lot of sense, and it seems to be working really well.
Well, okay, so let's go there then. After the bye, what changes we could see defensively? We talked about a presumed increased role for Joey Porter Jr., Keeanu Benton. I want to bring up two more names, though. We saw Fehoko was active but didn't play a snap, and then Desmond King just played the one where Justice Hill had a rushing touchdown, where it looked like there was definitely some miscommunication there in the back end. Like they were pointing the entire time, and he just kind of threw his hands up. He didn't know where to be on the field. So, two of those guys come to mind as well in terms of guys that we saw active, but obviously didn't play a role on defense. Could we, though, post-bye?
Well, I don't think we'll see Fehoko against the Rams. They're a 3-receiver team pretty much all the time. Tennessee, though, is right on the other side of that, and that's a 2 tight end team. That's a heavy running team. We could see him there. I don't know. I don't understand their unwillingness to go to Fehoko, but
wait, they have Jacksonville in between because Jacksonville and Tennessee
Jacksonville
on a short week after
Jacksonville. That's right. Tennessee's a Thursday night. Yeah, Jacksonville plays mostly one tight end, one running back, but I think they run some different stuff. I haven't looked too much at their new offense. I think I don't know that I just don't think at this point, like I'm kind of given up on the idea that for whatever, they just don't see it in Braden Fehoko. And I don't think the run defense has been so bad this past week, especially. I thought they defended the run pretty well against Baltimore, which is a heavy run team. So I don't know. I think it seems like they're going to keep on keeping on in terms of that. Desmond King, I don't know, man. It seemed like he had a shot, and it didn't seem like he took very good advantage of it there. I mean, it was very clearly something was wrong. Something was not done correctly on that play where Justice Hill scores a touchdown. There was some obvious confusion on the back end, and then him not getting any more snaps kind of tells me that the confusion was probably him. Like that's, and so that's not good. They kind of waited a long time, I feel like, to let him loose, and first snap still not ready to go, so probably not a sparkling endorsement of him being a bigger contributor going forward. But I did talk to Terrell Austin today about this idea of when are we going to see more of Patrick Peterson in the slot, and basically he said they trust Patrick Peterson to play in the slot. The only holdup has been how many snaps are we willing to give Joey Porter right now. And so I do think that quote specifically and the plan that we've seen from Joey tells me that when we see a lot of nickel against the Rams, 3 receivers, Atwell, Nakua, and Kupp, which you would not have believed would be talked about as a dangerous receiver trio, but or even expected to be the starters for that team.
They just traded Van Jefferson today.
Yeah, they just traded Van Jefferson, and I expect that we will see a good amount of Porter, Peterson, and Wallace on the field at the same time. And I don't think there's any question that those are the Steelers' 3 best corners. So if they're playing 3 corners, those are the 3 they need to be playing. Whether it's Sullivan or King, if they need a 4th one out there, to me is not that important. But I think either of them could probably do that job. but I think we're going to see a lot more of the nickel package, the skinny nickel that I called it in training camp, with the 3 outside corners and no slot guy, or no predetermined slot guy. Now, I do expect that Peterson will be the guy to move into the slot. Joey Porter is such a good man corner, but he is not really what I would call like a great zone corner yet. Not saying he can't be, just wasn't what his college defense asked him to do a lot, doesn't have a lot of experience in that area. And Peterson is just the total opposite, like only really want to play him in zone. And I think, this is the way to fix that in some way, is to move Peterson inside and have him playing against more slot guys. We'll see how it goes. He had some reps against Mark Andrews that didn't go so great in that Baltimore game, so that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work, but it sure seems like that's going to be the plan. And I think it's good.
That's what I was going to ask, just in terms of like the tackling issues that they've had on the back end too. Like, you got to be a short tackler if you're playing in the slot, and he can get those. Teams might be kind of looking for that mismatch also if they are a team that flexes out their tight end. So, yeah, I mean, the Steelers have faith in it. Do you, though, feel like that is something that could work for them, that alignment?
I think they have to balance tackling and coverage. I don't think Joey is a particularly strong run defender from an outside corner position, and I expect that Patrick Peterson would be an even worse run defender as a slot corner than he would be as an outside corner. That's usually the way it works. There's more run defense responsibilities as a slot corner. This skinny nickel to me needs to be a passing down nickel, and we need to see the heavy nickel with Minka in the slot as a run down nickel defense. If you go back to the days of Mike Hilton and Cam Sutton, that's exactly the way the Steelers did it. Mike Hilton played run down nickel. Cam Sutton played pass down nickel. So I do think that you're going to see the 3 safety nickel with Minka in the slot on rundowns, and you're going to see the skinny nickel with Peterson in the slot on passing downs. And that's probably in the base. Maybe we will see still more of Wallace and Peterson and not Joey in the base 3-4 defense, because that is when you are expecting runs and you probably want the 2 best tacklers out there. And I do think that's probably Wallace and Peterson.
Man, we are so far removed from that 2019 secondary. Joe Hayden, Steven Nelson, Mike Hilton, Cam Sutton, Minka, and Edmonds.
They had one good secondary in like the last 15 years.
Yeah. Like that deep too, like those 4 corners and those 2 safeties. I wanted to ask you about one unit though too, in particular. Maybe you won't see change here. That's why when I ask you about it, the inside linebacker rotation with Elandon Roberts, Quan Alexander, Cole Holcomb. How do you feel like those guys have fit into their roles, and do you think that that's going to continue going forward?
I think they're hitting their stride. I think they've figured out the rep distribution. Quan Alexander and Cole Holcomb, they're trading off with the green dot. They're playing the majority of the reps. Roberts is playing more of a run down specialist, and he's good at that. He's made an impact stopping the run. We finally saw Alexander's pass rush come through a little bit. I think he's
I thought he was really good on Sunday, like 3 tackles.
Been a little like I don't know if like held back or just hasn't been set free, hasn't been cut loose in the passing game, in the pass rush to this point. I think we saw more of that, and he did a really good job. And Holcomb just needs to be the guy that can do a little bit of everything. He doesn't need to be great at all of it, but they need a versatile player to go alongside those other 2, and I think he can be that. He's the guy that's going to take the brunt of the bad assignments. He's going to be the Terrell Edmonds whipping boy, where you see a play made in 55 there, and you're like, oh, that Holcomb stinks, and then you go back and look at the tape, and you're like, why was he even there? Like, well, because they were trying to do something else somewhere else, and he got stuck with a bad assignment. I do think there's going to be some of that to his game this year, but I thought they had their best game together against Baltimore, and I wouldn't be trying to change anything about the way those linebackers are playing right now.
And the one last guy I wanted to bring up is Keanu Neal. His role, you mentioned, maybe like some 3 safety stuff. Obviously, he's on the field in those situations. But how do you feel like he's played up to this point, and is he kind of just in his role, whatever that might be right now? Do you see that changing at all?
He seems like in the Baltimore game anyway, he was playing a little faster to me. Like, he just seemed a little bit more comfortable in what he was doing. I still think they are not doing enough to maximize the playmaking of Minkah Fitzpatrick. Moving him around does a lot of things for the rest of the defense and letting him take away things. but like I expected to see more like of the three safety, where instead of Minka in the slot, it's Minka as a robber or Minka as a spy, or I haven't seen enough of that for me. I want to see him. I want to see 39 get his hands on the football. I want to see quarterbacks have to have a more difficult job of accounting for where 39 is on a play in and play out basis. I'm not sure they've gotten that to that point yet. And I think that's, to me, the big job in terms of the safety grouping. KZ has not done badly. He's basically exclusively playing that open field free safety where like the design of the defense is you're hoping he never has to do anything. So like, it's kind of hard to criticize him for being quiet, right? That's generally a good thing for everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I think that about does it, unless you got anything else.
So we gotta tomorrow we will announce the rules for our giveaways on Thursday. But if you guys have like thoughts about that, go ahead and leave them in the comments. And we're gonna give away some subscriptions to Steelers Now Plus. I got that squared away. We talked about it. We got gloves, no, not gloves, socks, hats, jersey that is not a jersey that is not TJ Watt.
Okay. I mean, that would have been a big one. So
it's here. It's on my porch right now. I'm gonna go grab it.
Okay.
And so yeah, we got all kinds of stuff to give away. We're gonna be live. I think we'll probably be live. I don't know, around. We'll figure out the timing. We'll announce that tomorrow, but sometime in the afternoon. That's the name of the show. We're kind of limited by that, and so we'll get that taken care of. But that's all I got.
Steelers evening drive. No, Alan, tell the people where they can find you.
At @Saunders_PGH on X, at PGH Steelers Now on X, SteelersNow.com. Lots of good stuff there today and the rest of the bye week. Steelers Now Plus. Subscribe, get 10% off using the promo code Allen10. It costs like 2 large pizzas. It's great Steelers coverage for the whole year. Do it. Also, buy 2 large pizzas because pizza's delicious.
There you go.
Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Buy it on Thursday to eat during the live stream. That's what I would be doing.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I'm Zachary Smith, PGH. Like Alan said, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here, leave us a comment. If you are listening somewhere else, be sure to leave us a 5-star review, and make sure you subscribe there as well, because Apple, Spotify, all those platforms, you got to be subscribed to so you get a notification every time a new episode goes out. So be sure to do that. For Alan Saunders, I'm Zachary Smith. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers afternoon drive.